Everybody, welcome to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. I'm so happy to be here on this Thanksgiving evening with a wonderful gentleman I just met a few days ago, maybe about a week now. Very happy you're here. Welcome, everybody. Eddie Dee Williams. How's it going, brother?
Hey, no complaints, man. No complaints. Glad to be here.
I saw you do a lot of the TikTok lives, and that's something that I've been trying to kind of venture into. Is the because I started with YouTube and X. I got, a little bit of a following within those. And my wife's been interested in TikTok and marketing stuff. And Book Talk's great. So finding you as a self-published author, first of all, that's my bread and butter. That's what I love doing here, is talking about self-published authors, especially. I know that some people don't like to distinguish themselves as self-published or traditionally published. You're all authors, which is true. But it's a different ball game. And I'm very glad that you're here, man, and happy to kind of get to know you and your work a little bit more, your inspirations. And I'm excited that you said yes, brother. So if you would start out maybe a little bit about yourself, anything.
Yeah. No, first off, thank you. Because again, I'm just this little small fish in this big old pond. And so the fact that you found me and decided to take a chance on me, I don't take that for granted. So I'm certainly grateful to grace your platform on tonight.
Thank you, man.
No, absolutely, man. Listen, again, I'm grateful. I'm one of those people where it's like I'm just grateful to be here. Like, I'm just so happy to be here. And so any opportunity I get to talk.
It's like everybody's so nice, giving,
absolutely.
caring, excited about it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, so the fact that you found me and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you," I was like, "Yes, let's do this." Like, just say when. And so, I'm so grateful that you opened up the platform to me.
So where do you hail from?
By trade, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. There's a little bit of a lag, guys.
I'm from Valdosta, Georgia.
I want to. Sorry, Eddie. There's a little bit of a lag. If I interrupt you, it's not on purpose. I'm so sorry. But yes, go ahead with what you do and where you're from and stuff like that.
Yeah, no problem. So, I'm from Valdosta, Georgia. Been born and raised here my whole life. Went to college in Tallahassee. Did 4 years there. Went to Atlanta for a couple of years. Then got married and came back home. And so I've been here ever since. And I'm by trade a marriage and family therapist. And so I've been doing marriage and family therapy for about 13 years now. My specialties are in relationships and trauma. And so a lot of my background is helping people to deal with some of their issues and things of the past, and trying to help them unravel those things, and so they're able to live in a different bit different and better future. Been married for almost 16 years now, and grateful to my wife, Nicole. She's been flipping amazing in all the little different ventures that I've tried in this life of mine. I'm such a freaking savant trying to do all the things, and she's been such a support to all of it. And so it would just make sense for her to want to support the book venture as well. Got 2 kids, Marie and Allison. Marie is 14, Allison is 11. And both of them are going on 25. Please help your brother out if you got any tips on how to help, get these girls, as they are. But they're wonderful. They're wonderful.
I was just saying, anybody who's watched my channel in the past, and all of these faces over in the comments will know this, but you just, for me, man, as a man, you just hit everything that I love about the human experience. Talking about your support system, talking about where you're from, about what you're proud of about it, and being a man that does the trade that you're in, and just kind of being there that you're there to help people. Man, I knew I knew that you'd be a winner, man. I knew it. So I'm just so glad that you shared that with us, because it's also fun to read a story, but it's a whole other layer.
Yeah.
It's a lot
No,
more depth,
absolutely.
and you get to kind of know someone as a person as well.
Absolutely. I'm great. Yeah.
So let's start here then. For you, when did your love of literature kind of begin? Like, were you a young reader? Did your mom and dad read, or did you find it a little bit later? I found it later, so I always love these stories. So go ahead.
Yeah, no. So my love for stories, they began at a very young age. Um, just growing up watching Power Rangers, X-Men, things like that. And then my brothers and my cousins, we would all go in the backyard and we would then go imitate what we saw on TV. We were just actors on stages all the time. And so we're in the backyard beating Rita, the Putty Patrol, the Sentinels, Magneto, all of them. And then my grandmother, she growing up, especially during the summer, we would be watching the soap operas. And so she's always got a soap opera on, Young and the Restless, Bold and Beautiful, Guiding Light, All My Children, like the whole 9 yards. We watching every last one of them, Days of Our Lives. And we just got sucked into the drama of the stories and the relationships and the breakups and the makeups. And so I could tell you anything about Brooke and Thorne and Victor Newman and all of the problems that they had going on. And it kind of just morphed from there, being a storyteller. And in my earlier ages, like I would try to write stories and would have all these fantastical ideas about, heroes and villains, and can remember times where we were on a field trip, I think in the 7th grade, and on our way home, I told this 3-hour long story about this thing called Starjammer. I don't know why I remember this thing right now, but we told this 3-hour long story about this Starjammer thing, and I had everybody's attention for 3 hours on this bus to get us home. And so somebody say, who shot JR in the comments? But that's what we're talking about, though. That's what we're Dynasty, watching those.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, as I'm also a minister, we had to learn the art of storytelling in the church. And so, we got to learn how to keep people's attention, because, you be telling your story a little bit too long, you're going to have people going to sleep. And so
There's a way to do it, right?
Right, exactly. And so not only are we trying to teach biblical truth, but we're also trying to teach it in a captivating way, keeps people's attention, keeps their focus, don't go too long, don't stay too short. And so over time, my craft of storytelling just became and materialized from there. After a certain point in time, though my imagination never went away, my desire to tell stories kind of diminished, because growing up trying to make ends meet, trying to get my life together, that sort of thing, just got married, and those sort of things. So stories in terms of the telling of them kind of took a back seat for a good little while. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago where I'm sitting in an office with one of my good friends, my best friend, and she was saying, you've got a real good knack for telling stories. Why haven't you written a book yet? And so every day for like 3 weeks, she's like, so you started writing yet? We ain't gonna start writing. Have you started writing? Why aren't you writing yet?
That's a good
friend. Listen, scary judge of talent, very scary judge of talent. And so eventually I was like, you know what, fine, let me do this, because I've tried writing them before. I would get started, get stuck, and then quit, and all these other things. And sure enough, with the help of, and because I don't want to take all the credit, by the help of this guy, James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, I learned
grab
how
a
to
book off the
discipline
shelf
myself to become an author. Listen, I'm telling you. So after reading James Clear's book, he gave us the discipline, saying the issue was that I was focused too much on the end game. And because I was focused too much on the end game, I didn't know to just set small little habits and replicate those things every day. And so my focus was every day for 5 minutes, write something. And from that little bitty goal of doing that every day, That's how the book came to be. And from that, my imagination and my thought processes and my ability to world build and character build and all that stuff just came back to life all over again. Stuff that was dormant in me for years, but I just never, had never fired that engine back up. And from there, everything just started taking off.
Look, I've heard so many foundational stories that are wonderful. Like, oh, I read Tolkien as young. I read this person, that person. I feel like what you just said as your story is much more authentic and not maybe not more authentic. What I mean is, it's not what I usually hear in the most wonderful way ever, because it wasn't a genre, it wasn't an author. It was your knack and love and notice of your talent to tell stories. And it's that. It wasn't Tolkien. It wasn't this book or this author. It was just the act or the art of telling a story. And you found that applicable in so many different parts of your life, being a minister, having kids, all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it really was for me when I in the midst of, because I had to go through a therapeutic journey 3 years ago. And one of the first things that I had to figure out, because as a former people pleaser, I had to figure out that a lot of the things that I was doing at the time was based on somebody else having recommended it to me. And so when I took that first step back to figure out who am I versus who have I been, 98% of the stuff that I was doing was because of somebody else. The music that I listened to, the movies that I watched, the things that I loved and enjoyed, it was because somebody else recommended it. It wasn't, and it was because that person liked it. Oh, I want to like that too. It wasn't because I particularly liked it. So when I took that step back, I realized, dude, I was recording the theme songs to TV shows and movies, and those would be on my Walkmans and on my tape decks, and I'm listening to like the theme songs from like The Rock, with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, listening. Right. And those were the songs that would be playing in my headphones for days on end. And list of the Power Rangers theme song, video game music. Like, I had gotten so skilled at finding the menu for the music of a video game for the Sega Genesis. I would memorize the buttons. Then as I'm doing stuff throughout the house, I'm taking the Sega Genesis with me, turning on the game without a TV, moving the joystick to get to the menu, and playing the music to Rocket Knight Adventures or Sonic 3 or whatever, and I'm using the soundtrack of my day. And so I learned that, that's where all of my creativeness was coming from. It's like, I love the art of the story, the good guy versus bad guy, heroes and villains, origin stories. The MCU really, materialized that in such a big way, looking at how they did Thanos and how they did, Iron Man, and how they did Black Widow, and how all the origin stories, came to be materialized. And all the while I'm looking at these things and saying, I think I could do this. I think I could write something like this, because again, I want to be a Power Ranger. Like, I want to morph, I want to suit.
Yeah. Like, so, Morphin, like, we need this Mighty Morphin.
Okay, exactly.
And you stopped taking other people's expectations of you, and you made your own.
Absolutely. And the scariest part about it for me was, again, because I was so used to being a people pleaser, I was always afraid people were not going to like me.
Yeah.
But come to find out, no, dude, everybody has always loved you. You just were not loving yourself, which is, again, what I had to go to therapy to figure out. I didn't love me. And so once I fell back in love with myself, come to find out, everybody that's in my sphere loves me too. And I'm like, I didn't know. I had no idea. And they're like, dude, we never were expecting you to just go with the flow. We've always wanted you to be your own person. And as a result, that gave me it gave me the confirmation of what was already affirmed, that I am, that I'm worthy of being loved and worthy of being worthy of celebrating my own giftedness. And so when you package that all together, the catharsis that I went through became the foundation for the characters that are now in my book.
Wow. Yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah, because everything they're going through in some way, shape, or form has been something that I've gone through. And now, I have all this rich material to now take the characters through, all the while having them have these super ultra powers and trying to save the world at the same time.
So I'm so glad that you tied into that, because my man Tim, he's another wonderful. I'm gonna throw up some work of his. It's right behind you. All of his work, I think. There we go. My man Tim, I gotta shout you out, dude. What's going on? Whisper of a Replaced God.
Nice.
Oh, that's 3. Well, look at me. I'm going backwards, dog. Platinum. I used to say platinum tainted darkness, and he corrected me one day. I'm so glad that he did. And then Tears of the Maelstrom. Anyway, Tim, I'm so sorry. We're getting to it now, finally. So the reason we're here, my man, he wants to see the book. I'll bet you got a copy handy. Oh man. Hold on, is that a dust cover hardback, or is it a no? Okay. Can't hear you.
There we go. My bad. I touched the button.
Yep, there we go.
That's on me. So this isn't a dust cover. This is a just straight on. I think they call it case limited. But this is the book. It's titled The Affinity Theory. It's book 1 of the Affinity Saga. And in it, as a quick synopsis, Malcolm, Simone, and their superpowered teammates have come together to take down a maniacal force of darkness who's hell-bent on wiping out their powered population within their city and murdering one of their own. It's X-Men meets Twilight meets Hancock meets the Avengers. One of the best superhero novels you're going to hear and read in a very long time.
I love that. So that's what won me. I was like, when I heard you giving, that synopsis over and over again, because that's what you got to do. When you're talking to people one-on-one or live, people are getting in there and they're new and talking about what that book is about. So you do that well. And my wife, she's like, I feel like I repeat myself 5,000 times. Well, you do. But that's what unfortunately you have to do. And you're either good at it or you're not. But I can see that you were really, really good at it. I wasn't in there waiting for, to wonder what the book was about. You hit that point instantly. So the Affinity Theory, when did you always have this story in your mind? Is this like a dump of all of your inspirations into one book, or how did that come to fruition, this novel?
Yeah, so again, going back to some of the catharsis that I was doing at the time, back in 2021, that was the year that I had proverbially been kicked out of the church that I was pastoring. The pandemic hit us in 2020, and some of the church politic thereof is, we got to figure out where the money's going to come from. Sure. And I wasn't preaching on nobody paying no tithes. Like, no, listen, man, ain't nobody working right now. We all at home. Leave people alone. Like, let's wait till we get back to the church. We start talking about
that'd be hard.
Right, exactly. And because of the politics of the church thereof, they figured that, my salary was what they had lost. And so if they cut me loose in this roundabout way, that would be able to save them some money. And so at the end of the day,
the world was crazy.
I'm telling you, like, I knew, but I didn't know. Like, I knew, but I didn't know. And so once that happened, I started asking myself the question, going back to what we talked about before, about me kind of people pleasing. Whose dream was it for me to be a pastor? Was it mine, or was it somebody else's? And in that catharsis period, I come to find out that it wasn't really my dream. It was my grandfather's, and I took it on as my own, trying to make him happy. And so through that space, I was going through kind of a midlife crisis of sorts at 35, saying, who am I really? And from that, at the same time, you know, I'm figuring out that I'm a storyteller. Best friend says, hey, you should write a story because you're really good at telling the stories. That's what started to materialize this. The original story that I wanted to write was going to be some kind of knockoff version of Dollhouse, if you remember the show, off on Fox, where you have these people who are empty shells and they're going about doing different things in the world and then coming back and being emptied all over again. But I couldn't make that make any type of sense. And so when I kind of went back, you know, again, further looked at, you know, Power Rangers and X-Men, I was like, I would love to do something where you got these people with these powers, but they're still living kind of normal-ish lives. And so from there, that's how Malcolm, Simone, Alexia, Malaysia, Duncan, Carl, and Daisy evolved. It was, you know, here we got these characters who are a part of this or who part of this group. They're working together as a team, trying to take down bad guys, but they're still living normal lives at the same time. And from there, all of the things that I was going through in the catharsis that I was going through, you know, between relationship stuff going on between me and my wife, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what my true friend group is versus the people pleasing that I had been a part of, and then learning how to advocate for myself became the foundations from which the book then materialized.
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to see if we could break down a couple things. So I'll start here. It's always kind of fuzzy where I should start because there's so much with every single person has wonderful stories, and I want to make sure that we highlight all those wonderful points. So with the Affinity Theory, is that the same? Is there going to be a series? You can have 2, 3 in this? Or are you just doing
the Affinity Theory is the Affinity Theory is book 1 of the Affinity Saga. And so when the series is finished, because I already kind of have everything in terms of like the framework mapped out, it'll be a trilogy of trilogies.
Okay.
So each 3 books is kind of detailing there's something major that's happening. We'll move about you know, a couple of years forward, and then we'll start moving into the next big thing that's happening in those 3, and then move to the final big 3 that'll kind of cap everything off. So the Affinity Theory is kind of gives you the basis for the, you know, world building, letting you know where everybody's at, the powers, how the suits work, and all those sorts of things, and begins the mechanism from which everything else will start to flow.
So would you say that it's going to something like a trilogy of trilogy is something that one of my favorite authors is doing? His name's Rob J. Hayes, and the way I want to make sure that I understand your timeline. So the first trilogy is going to be set along one timeline, and then you're going to go back or forward in time with the second era.
We'll go forward. We'll go forward in time. Okay. We'll go forward in time. And so the first set of the the first trilogy will be about a year and some change, and then we'll fast forward 2 years to get to book 4 and begin the second trilogy, which will be about maybe 6 months to a year in time span, and then we're going to jump again to about about a year or so after the events of book 6 to finish everything off.
Oh man, just kind of thinking of that quickly, just the way that I was referenced, there's a huge change in time. So it's a different culture. It's like immense changes. I like the way that you're kind of doing yours with, I'm giving you the origin. I'm giving you, here is where I consider the middle of my story that I want to tell. And I have an idea of the way that I want it to end up. So there's going to be some explaining. And I love that. I love that, man. And you're setting it all up right now. That's important.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what even in talking with Nicole, my wife, who knows everything about the book, because she loves the story and loves everything about it. There's so many different Easter eggs that are being dropped all over the books, to where, you know, the callbacks are going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed that. And it's like, no, I wanted you to miss it, because if you would have caught it, then it would have been an Easter egg. And
There's a
so,
method to your madness, Eddie.
yes, exactly,
I got
exactly.
you, dude.
So I'm super excited about. That's why I'm excited about book 2 when it comes out next year, because there's a guy by the name of Sean Keese and Black Men Read on TikTok, who's got all these different theories about who's who and what they're doing and why they're doing it. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. You have no
Of
idea what's
your
going
book.
on. Right. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so cool, man. That
Yeah,
must be
so
super cool to see.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been very, very, very rewarding experience for me. I got a chance to actually read a chapter alongside him during one of his lives, and I've been able to watch in real time people's reactions to certain things, and the questions and the analysis that he provides post reading. And so it's been such a joy to watch. It's almost like watching a TV show and then watching the post game after the chapter's read, just to see where their heads at. I'm like, dude, oh, you're on the right track, or man, you are so off base, but I can't say nothing, because if I say something, it's gonna ruin your reaction when you figure things out. So it's just been so cool to watch and kind of go in, and like I'll throw some things in there, just kind of throw people off and see how they respond and react. And it's been fun, man. It's been a fun time watching that happen.
I can't even imagine. I can't, I aspire to want to write, and my story is somewhat, very different. It's like, I was in the hospital. I've been sick since I was 16. I'm good now. Like, I still have an illness, but I'm good. I'm healthy now. And I spent so much time in the hospital that I needed something, in reading. It delivered. So I wasn't a reader before then, but I was 29 when I found it. I'm 34 now. So yeah, I kind of just a real quick, so you understand where I'm coming from. I love how Brandon Sanderson's fans love how he puts Easter eggs and stuff, and the ability to grab those, and also to have the power to not say something to those readers, because every single reader is going to have a different experience with your book, man, because like, they're going to figure it out in the end. Once you give that ending, they're going to figure it out, but their route to figuring it out is going to be different for everyone. So yeah, kudos for you. Not like, that would be hard for me. Like, it would.
Listen, it's so difficult. It's so difficult, because I want to like just burst the bubbles so much, but it's like, no, I'm not going to kill y'all's experience in this, because I'm more excited about the reactions anyway. Because again, as a genuine storyteller, I live for the reaction. Something that I learned watching Chris Rock. I watched the documentary on Chris Rock and his comedic genius.
Was it
and
the
one of the
newer
things
one?
that no. This is like about maybe 15 so years ago when I saw this documentary on him. I think it was like on him and a whole bunch of other people. And he was saying that one of the things that he does to keep his audience's attention is that he will intentionally move around on the stage. He'll move on the stage, so that way, if he's standing still, then the likelihood of you kind of dozing off would be greater. But if he's moving on stage, you never know what's going to happen. You might miss something if you don't see what he's doing. So you got to keep his eyes on him. And so one of the things that I love doing in the book is, like I said, dropping something and seeing whether someone can catch it. And if they can, fantastic. If they don't, it'll come back around, because we're still moving. And so it's kind of one of those kind of bait and switches where, I've got set this here, and I just want to see whether or not you can catch what's happening. And if not, I'm not mad at you, because I wrote it that way in hopes that once we swing it back around, you're going to be like, dude, where did that come from? And I'll just be like, I've been holding it in my hand this whole time. You just didn't see it.
Just being a reader myself and finding something out later in a novel that maybe someone picked up before me can have a profound, it will make my experience more profound, because instead of me kind of getting where things are popping up and maybe having an idea or guessing the ending, hey, I need to pay more attention to what's going on right now. And that's just going to be more of a profound ending for them. And when they do figure out all of these loose ends, and when they all get tied up. Cinepalm says, are there non-Western mythological themes? I'm a huge fan of Roseanne A. Brown and Eddie Okorafor and Kwame Mbalia. I think I got probably.
Yeah. So yes and no. I don't know a lot about the non-Western mythologies. That's something that I'm studying in myself. Because again, I'm just getting back into reading stories, and so like Tommy Adeyemi, Ndine, and Okorafor, and authors like them, like they are very versed in the Yoruba tribes and all the kind of mythologies and the stories of those tribes. So I know very little about them. And so it's kind of loosely based in like otherworldly type stuff, but the structure of my world and the deities thereof and the powers thereof is something that I completely came with on my own. And so a lot of my stuff is kind of steeped in Christianity for me. But it's like it splits off into its own thing for the purpose that I have the characters going through. And once we get to like the end of book 3 and the beginning of book 4, all of that will begin to materialize in a very big way. When it comes to kind of like the big bads that they're having to deal with moving forward in the second part of the saga, the second act of the saga. And so a lot of it's based in Christian elements and themes, but you don't really feel it and don't really notice it until we start getting into the heart of the matter, which happens at the end of 3 and goes into the 4th book. And so I kind of I'm paying attention more. But again, my stuff is based in both both Christianity and in a therapeutic system called the Enneagram. I use the Enneagram, the 9-point system, as a basic structure for what I'm trying to accomplish among the powers, especially the team. And so a lot of what if you understand the Enneagram, you'll understand a lot of what they're going through, because a lot of the character development and the powers thereof is based in a lot of that system. And so there's some Christian elements and themes that are within the Enneagram system as well. And I always tell people, it's like, if you know what you're looking at, then you can pay attention to what's going on. So again, I don't know enough about the systems of the Yorubas and things like that. But there is a system in play that is the structure from which all the powers are being built.
Yeah, your magic system, and it seems very authentic to you and your ideas, rather than basing it off the history of something.
Right.
Which I think is great too, because I was talking to a historical fantasy author yesterday, and she's wonderful at what she does. But look, there's no way I could write a historical fantasy, because there would be £1,000,000 on my back to make everything perfectly correct, and then to add the fantasy in it, I would feel like a fraud.
Yes.
So I have to create my own thing.
I'm so glad you said that. I actually talked to a friend of mine and was asking that question at the very beginning. I was like, if I were to put this in here, what would this mean? And because of all the historicity behind it, I'm like, nah, bro, I'm not even gonna try to touch that, because I know they're gonna come for my head if I even try to put this in here. So I backed away real fast off of that stuff, because again, I don't know enough about it. The faith that my faith in Jesus Christ, I know everything about that, like the back of my hand. And so to be able to manipulate that in such a way, and then couple it with my therapy stuff, that became the perfect marriage for me. That made sense to me. And it made it easier to then write the book, rather than trying to make sure, okay, let me make sure this is right. Let me make sure this is right. Make sure I put his name right and all that type of stuff. And by then I probably would have been back in that rut where I don't want to write this no more.
Yeah.
So much work.
I totally get that. That's one aspect I asked her. I was like, now for you to be able, this is me talking to, her name was Shauna Lawless yesterday, as a historical fantasy. I was like, you have to be so confident in your knowing of that history subject to the, like she described, like the law system, the culture, the way they talk, their everything, the way they, what they wore, what they ate. And she's straight up loves Irish mythology. Now me, I'd have to do so much research. I would end up, it would be too much of a, it would be almost a burden to write a book that way. And I want to have fun and do this and inspiration. So I love what you did there, man. Also, my man Tim. So I'll talk to you about it after a couple more social links. There's such a wonderful, wonderful book community on X, and I'm trying to get that everywhere, but especially on X, I have to say it's just so. And Timothy is the front. That's who I put in front. He is just a wonderful guy. But everybody is looking for authors such as yourself to talk about and read and be inspired by, and I can already sense it. Senna, thank you so much. Senna is loves audiobooks. She has a harder time with the prints and stuff like, so she's an audio person. We'll get to that. And do you plan on doing an audio? I'm just starting, by the way, narrating. So it's funny that you're starting writing, I'm starting narrating. So I kind of like to be interested in your answer as far as being a debut author. What's your idea of an audio eventually, or no?
Yeah, so we're actually working on the audio as we speak. And so this will be my first time trying to do narration as well. So I've been trying to do a lot of practice on TikTok by reading.
It's a learning curve.
It really is. It really is. And so I've been doing a lot of practice on the social medias by reading sample chapters to make sure I'm getting the voices right, make sure I'm getting the cadences right, making sure I'm not reading too fast in some areas, reading too slow in others. But we are working on it. And my hope is that by the end of February, we'll have the audio version done. And once we have that done, my hope is that book 2, in terms of the print edition, will be finalized with all of the edits completed and all that. So that way, once I have a system of how to get the book recorded, I can go ahead and start recording book 2. So that way, when we release it, it's all released at one time rather than how we have it now.
I have to say, for self-published authors to publish a book and also have an audio to go with it, it is just like the best thing that I think you could do personally, just from what I've seen. And I think the way that you're going to do that's going to be great. Having an audio with your book translates to readers, ordinary readers. This is legit. Like, this is a book that deserved an audio book. There's a nice cover, and you're not gonna, you know what I mean? My wife says it best. She says, people who box and display their products the best have the most pride in the product within that said box. And having that wrapped up nice with an audiobook, I think translates and gives such a foot ahead.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And I agree to that because, again, everybody has their way of learning. Everyone has their way of absorbing knowledge. Everyone has their way of enjoying something. I'm more of your visual learner, which is why so many people are saying, man, I can see your book. I wish this was on TV, because that's just, I write visually. Like when I first started writing, and sent it off to the alpha reader, they were like, dude, for you to be such a visual person, I can't see your book. So help me see what you're seeing. And so, everyone has a different way of absorbing knowledge and absorbing information. And so I want to be able to provide as many ways as possible for people to get this story out. So as soon as I figured out how to start doing the audiobook process, I was like, okay, let's get to work. Let's get the tech together. Let's get all the things we need, and let's make this happen, because I want as many people as possible to hear this story. This story is so flipping good that I want everybody to be able to enjoy it in the way that they want to enjoy it. And so any way that we can provide that, man, I'm game.
That's so cool. And I can tell, and I could, from the first time I've seen you on TikTok, just how excited you are about the work that you've done, and how just it inspires you. So that in itself is also something that translates to people, readers, stuff like that. Michael C. Hames said, It's impressive how Eddie draws on everything from Sega to soaps, from religion to Chris Rock, and to construct a story. I love that too. Yes,
Yeah.
which kind of opens up my next question a little bit, because I think people are wondering also: is this a adult book? Is this is something,
Yes.
or
Yes.
an
So
everybody book?
this is an adult superhero romance thriller. So it's got a little bit of everything in there. It's got the explosive superpowered battles, and it's got an intense, spicy romance in there as well.
Okay.
It's not an erotic book, but there is a spicy scene in it. And with me, I write with intention, and so there's it's not just in there for fluff's sake. There is an intention behind that scene being in the book. Soul stirring wisdom. My people cuss though. You know, they using all the bombs.
Okay,
So
that's good. I'm glad you said that, because
yeah,
you know I didn't want to say anything on live that may offend anyone. Also, if people are a lot of people that watch this, or me especially, I love a clean book, but I also love the ones where we're not afraid to be mad and cuss a little bit.
Yeah, no,
So just
absolutely.
find that
My people are doing that. Yeah, and my people do it. You know, and again, that's just the culture in which they're in, one and two. You know, that's the human experience. Not
Yeah,
everybody has clean mouths. Not everybody has dirty mouths, and so you got some of my characters who may only use like one cuss word. You got others that use maybe 10 cuss words.
sure.
And that just goes with the nature of relationships and dynamics and people. Everybody's not built and hardwired the same way, and so I didn't want to make it where the characters felt so one-dimensional, and everybody was kind of following the same thing. So you'll see one character, you don't see them doing a whole lot, but you see another one doing a whole lot, in varying different ways. And so again, just making a cross-sectional intersection of all these people coming together. And again, I get a lot of that from the TV shows that I watch: NCIS, SWAT, Law and Order, Vampire Diaries, the originals, Legacies, all those kind of Joss Whedon type shows where they bring the ensemble cast together, and all of them are different, but they make a whole. Ocean's 11, I loved Ocean's 11 in the series, because it's like, dude, you get all these people together to do one task.
Yeah,
how? And it's brilliant every single time. And so it's like, yeah, that's my type of stuff right there. That's
I think it's so important to bring attention to the Christian themes. I love the Christian themes, but also to the fact that it's an adult book that does have swearing in it. So to make sure that when people are hearing about your book, they don't necessarily think, oh, this isn't an adult superhero book because of the Christian themes. No, there are adult moments, there are cuss words. And anyway, I think that that's a wonderful way to brand it.
No, I love that. As a matter of fact, that was one of the things that my wife and I had talked about a lot when we were talking about making the book public, because, you know, here in the Deep South, you know, if you're supposed to be a Christian, then you're supposed to be a Christian. And I was like, dude, my people are cussing. They are something that rhymes with cussing. And,
I'm a cousin Christian.
I'm saying exactly. And so, you know, right. And so for me, I was always nervous about, you know, putting this book out in the public, because I knew what it might mean for the name, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we were like, dude, people gonna love it, they're gonna hate it. And if they won't take a chance on it because it's not Christian, then it wasn't meant for them. It's just not meant for them.
I think you writing what you want to write and it being unapologetically authentic to you and what you wanted to put out there, there's no regrets there. Zero. None.
Zero. No, listen, these are my babies. These are my babies.
I love that.
Every day. And so, you know, I was one way or another, this book was going to get out there, and I'm in love with it. I'm in love with them, the story. And I tell people all the time when I'm on lives, like, I love my book. It just makes me extra happy that other people love it too. So regardless of whether this one person loved it or whether 1,000 people loved it, I'm just grateful that I put it out there, because this is my story to tell, and I'm in love with it. So yeah,
that it translates so well across so many authors, because I hear that quite a bit. And like without having a book out that's published, I can't say that I understand it. But I would hope that I feel like I would have that exact same, like, I'm not going to go into self-publishing if that's what I do and expect to be like a millionaire tomorrow. So that's obviously what I want to happen, but having a start like you do, where you're excited about your work, is going to be one of those stepping stones on your way to that point. And I think you bring it, is what I'm trying to get at, man. So I think that is an authentic part of people going to read your story. I know that it was a straight 100% reason why I grabbed it.
No, absolutely, man. And I appreciate that. Again, I tell people all the time, if you don't love what you love, people are going to know. People are just going to know. When I was working for the prison system as a therapist prior to where I'm working now, we all could tell we didn't want to be there. We were just getting by, trying to do the best we could. Let's get up out of there. And it just read in all of our faces. It read in everything we did, the notes that we took. Everything was very minimal. And so, I tell my clients all the time, and I tell myself, if you don't love what you do, it is going to show up. And people are going to see it, they're going to know it, and they're going to engage with you based upon the energy you bring. And so again, it would make very little sense to have gone through all this trouble of putting all this stuff together, getting the cover right, getting the words right, going through the betas, the alphas, the edits, and everything, and then present it. Well, here's my book. Y'all go, go buy some. Please go buy some. Like, if I'm not excited about my book, nobody gonna buy my book, and I know I shouldn't get mad, because if I'm not bringing the energy, if I'm not bringing the heat, why would I expect anybody else to want to, flock to this flame if my flame is so small? No, ain't nobody gonna come over here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's 100%. Especially in the TikTok universe, because and this is not to knock any of my ladies. I love y'all, but I'm not one of them, and so I know I gotta bring the heat.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I don't have.
I ain't got nothing to shake.
Exactly. I ain't got it. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, y'all could have been anywhere else. You could have stopped anywhere else, but you took a chance on me. So the fact that you're here, let me make sure my energy's on 100. So that way I keep you engaged, because I know all it takes is just somebody who, got the physique and got the things, and they'll keep you locked in and give you all the funds and the likes and the hearts and all that type of stuff. Well, so
I think that it would be hard to do that, what you're saying, with the energy that you bring, if you weren't that excited about your book. So it would be impossible for me. Like, so the excitement you have for your work is there when you're talking about your work. And that is what I saw, and so many other people will see. So I was just saying, keep that up, man. I think that is one of your best attributes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
100%. 100%. So let's dive into like your writing process, which, by the way, for someone that I had zero literacy terminology, and I knew nothing when I started this channel. I've learned everything that I know about the writing process and tropes and different genres through what I'm doing with you right now. So what would you say your process? Are you what they would call a discovery writer or a pantser? Are you more of an outliner? Are you a little bit of both?
So for me, I'm an outliner through and through. When I first started writing, I went and got me a journal, got me a little black book, and I've journaled everything.
See exactly what I have.
Yeah, right.
Great one.
So yeah, exactly. So this was how it all started, right here in this page right here, and from there, that's how everything started happening for me. And so I'm a straight up outliner. I will crush an outline through and through, because for me, what I want to have accomplished by the time that I've gotten started writing is I want to have written my book at least 3 times.
Okay.
So the first time that I outline is the flesh, like what are the major events that need to happen in this book? to get us from point A to point B. I'm trying to get us to a certain place. So what needs to happen in order to get us there? And then from there, we'll do like the major outline from start to finish. These are the things that are going to happen in this book. And then the third time will be a chapter by chapter outline, where we're talking about what are the little details that are getting us from here to there. By the time I've gotten through that process, the book has been written 3 times, so that now I have an idea of what I'm looking at in my head, and it makes it easier for me to write. Because otherwise I'll end up getting stuck and not having anywhere to go. When I did book 1, I got stuck in like chapter 6 or something like that, and I couldn't move it forward. And so thankfully I had the outline. So I went to a chapter that I knew I got this one down pat. I know what I want to happen in like chapter 12. So I went to chapter 12 in the outline, and I typed the mess out of chapter 12. I'm talking about details, battles, sequence, who get beat, all that stuff. Finished chapter 12, and I said, okay, now that I'm here, let me go back to chapter 6, and how do I get my people to 12? How do I get them to 12? And from there, it made it so much easier for me to write when I would have those writer block moments, because by having the outline and having the idea of the major events in my head, if I ever did get stuck, I always had a moment that I said, regardless of what happens in the edits, this moment is going to happen. And I see it plain as day. So let me write this moment, and then I can always go backward or forward. So that way, at least I'm still writing something. And so for me, that's what the outline helped me do. It helped me to stay focused on what needed to happen. And then we can always go back and add details later.
That is so huge, like epically huge. And the biggest and hardest part of writing for me, that's the hardest. It's just the hardest. What you just said.
Yeah.
Keeping continuity between now and later and before, and with characters that I'm inspired to create. But I think more so the characters don't bug me as far as it's so fun to think of these different types of characters, some actually being similar, other ones being a little bit different, some a lot different. The issue, and I'm so glad you touched on it, just having that outline, because you know what you want to write now, in the future, and then in the future, having an idea of what your story is going to be, and do you have an idea of what it is going to be at the end? Like, do you have an ending?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I figured. So you knowing the end, you knowing where you want readers to end up, you're going to have a wonderful window into the beginning, middle, and end of where you want your readers to take this journey. Man, I love that. And that's huge, dude. That's huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, the outline is what did it, man, because again, it's like, a lot of times, and again, this is just me. I don't prescribe this to be the method or anything, but it just helps me because, again, the way that my mind works, if I don't know where they're going, then I will get stuck. And so for me, it's just like watching a show. Where do I want my characters to end up, and how can I help them get there? And again, once you start kind of working on that general outline, it then makes all the other things that much more fun, because you'll have these like random moments that show up in the middle of things that they look like they don't matter, but now those become Easter eggs. Those become little things that like, this is so random. Why are they having this conversation in the middle of nowhere? And then 2 books later, that conversation shows up in a big way in this moment right here. And so all these little pockets now of different opportunities to now do something creative, to drop something in there that, again, I'm just going to put this there and I'm just going to leave it. And then it'll show up again in another point, and then be like, oh, that's why that conversation back in book 2 was so important, because now in book 4, oh my goodness, look at what happened. And so the general outline gives way to so much creativity and so much opportunity. One of the things that Nicole had talked to me about and looking at book one, going into book two, was like, I don't know enough about this character. I don't know enough about that character. And I set it up that way because, you know, I wanted to give him room to grow, but she was absolutely right. I didn't give enough time, screen time, so to speak, to some of the characters that were there. And so now, as the characters are moving in book two, going to certain places or doing certain things, here's a pocket. So now let's drop an origin story in here. Let's give a moment where, hey, talk about what happened in your past. Where are you from? That sort of thing. So now what was missing, what might have been missing in the first book, we now give a great opportunity in a more natural way to give what was missing in the first one. And so that's what the outline does. Once you have that general idea of how you want things to go, you now have all these little opportunities to be like, okay, for a page, let me give them a page. Drop something in here. Let me give them half a paragraph and drop something in there, and it becomes this seamless moving train that, much like when you watch a TV show, you know that you don't. One of the things that I despise about some TV shows that I've seen when they're trying to do this massive, like, you know, world build thing, is that they'll give you too much information in the first episode. Well, usually when a show. Yeah, right. When they do that, I already know this show is not going to last long because you're trying to get way too much, way too soon. There was this wonderful show that I saw that was kind of based off Mr. and Mrs. Smith back in like 2005 or 2006 with Boris Kajow and I can't remember who the woman was in the show at the time, but it was basically like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And right at the very beginning of the show, you had their boss calling some other boss saying they don't even realize what they're getting themselves into. Dude, I don't want to know that right now. Why are you telling me that now?
Yes, I get that. And I'm glad like that the other people noticed that. I mean, I know that other people noticed, but the way that you noticed that was just innate and just it wasn't your way of telling the story.
Right, exactly. And again, that's why I say, you know, to each his own. But it's like I know people in so much that if you give them too much too soon, you're gonna lose interest with them, because that's one of those moments where I know we need to know that, but did we really need to know that right now? Like,
the first thing, if you overwhelm your reader or viewer, it's instant outie, gone.
Right, and the show, and I wanted to support the show so bad, but I was like, man, this show gonna be going in 3 episodes, and I think they finally killed it in 5. I was like, dog it, man, y'all had one job, just one. Slow down,
yes, exactly. There's others, like there's so many other things too with like books, like formatting and paragraph spacing and sentence spacing that goes into that as well. But I didn't know that prior to starting this channel. And just all of that knowledge accumulating, which kind of, I wanted to say, I don't think that you made sure to reiterate, and I love that. And I just wanted to say my opinion on like the writing process. You said to each their own. That is literally it. Like I don't think I've ever found something as individual as the writing process.
Yeah, man. Yes. It's like, dude, this is just my method. This is what worked for me. This is what worked for me and again, this is all based in in reading Atomic Habits, figuring out what worked for me. Because again, I'm the type of person where I didn't have a lot of time at the time to write. And so, or at least I didn't know I had time to write because I was filling all my time with all this dead time scrolling on Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff.
We've all done it.
James Clear telling on me, boy. He was like, well, I know where your time's at. I bet you I know where your time's at. How much time you spend on your phone? I'm sorry, James. I'm sorry. My bad, James. You got me. My bad. My fault. And so to that end, that's why the outline worked for me, because I was trying to write in these pockets of time that I had based upon the schedule that I had at the time, until such where if I don't write something, or if I don't do something book related, then I feel weird. And that came from building the habits. And so again, that's why I say to everyone, find what works for you and then replicate that. That's all. Whatever works for you, whatever your time span is, whatever your writing style is, whatever it is, find what works for you and then just replicate it. Because if you can replicate it, then you can make it a natural part of what you do and who you are, to the point where when you don't do it, it make you feel weird. You still going about your day, but just like, man, I felt like I should have wrote something today. I should have whipped out a journal and put a nugget in or something, or recorded something on my phone or something. And so whatever works for you, whatever works for any of us as authors, do what works for you, because at the end of the day, that's how your book gonna get written. One of the things I love about TikTok is those videos would show up and they would say, you know why your book's not written yet? Because you haven't written it yet. I got okay.
Yes. It's like, you know what, you got me. Fine.
Okay.
I love that. I love that.
Oh.
So I think if anybody ever asks me my favorite outline interview, or I've had a great, wonderful interview so far, period, but especially about outlines with writers and maybe some people who struggle with their writing process, I just wanted to let you know I will absolutely lead them to this, because you're talking very, very intimately with that process, and I think a lot of people want that. I think a lot of people want to know those ins and outs, and to the particulars of why you outline yourself and potentially what they could do. What could be a part of their individual writing process. And it's not very often that it's dove or dived, whatever the word is, that deeply. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, and that's it comes from the therapeutic experience, man. Not just my own, having gone through therapy myself, but just what I take my clients through all the time. There is no one size fits all to how we do what we do. Everybody.
Well, wouldn't that make life easier?
It would. It just, God, it
wouldn't be as fun though.
Okay, man, especially therapy for me. I just like 1, 2, 3. But no, we all have an individual journey, an individual experience about how we go about doing this thing. And so once you're able to find your thing, go forth and do what you do. Because again, at the end of the day, like, this is the journey. And if you're willing to hold on for the ride, get to know who you are, get to know your strengths, your skill sets, what makes you tick, you're able to then just harness it, hone it, and then master it. Again, I forgot for a long time that storytelling was the innate part of who I am. I knew I was good at it, but I forgot that was who I am. And so once I owned that and then harnessed it, mastered it, now I'm in book 4, editing 2, editing 3, looking at 5, thinking about 6, and on and on and on. And at the same time, able to have these amazing opportunities to talk about the experience and to share my passion and help people find theirs as well. And it just bleeds everywhere. Like I said, I'm always trying to, help people to, to see what I see and help them understand, where my thoughts are coming from, and being able to tell them a story and get their responses and get their reactions of things. And so now that I know that that's an innate part of who I am, I just master it. Because if you master it, it's a part of you forever, and no one can take that away from you.
The schedule that you've got right now is quite ambitious, but I can tell that you're wrapping it up wonderfully and you're mastering it. That's what you're doing. I can tell you that what you're preaching, quotes, is what you're doing. Editing book 2, knowing how this is all going to end, lining these stories up in the way that you have with your outline. This isn't what they would call a half-assed attempt at writing. I absolutely love your full-in, balls to the wall style of, and not only style of what you've written and why you've written it, but how the process of writing it went for you and talking about it, because that is so important, and it's not translated very easily.
And now again, thank God for James Clear. If I ever get to meet this man, I'm gonna shake his hand. I'm gonna probably bow down to him, because it's like, dude, you don't understand.
I need to buy that.
Yeah, you make this, and you don't even have to read like the whole thing. Like, I read those first 4 chapters, and that's all I needed. It made me want to read the rest of the book. But those first 4 chapters was all I needed to be like, dude, I never thought about it like this before.
I need habits.
Yeah,
and this those everyday habits.
And it's so simple. It's so much simpler than we think it is. Because again, what he tells us is we're too focused on the future. Too focused on the future. My dream was to get this on Netflix. Let's get this on Hulu. Let's get this. Let's make it big. Let's be the next JK. All that kind of stuff, right? And dude was like, "You're thinking too big." Like, no, have the dream, want to be that, but dude, you can't make that the goal. You can't make that your habit. You need to become an author. What do authors do? They write. Okay, so now how do we know that authors write? How are you going to go about the process of being a writer? And from there, breaking it down into its simplest, smallest, replicable goal, and it's doing it every day. And that's where I came to every day for 5 minutes, write something. And it just launched. Yeah.
Right here, this is my wife that just popped up, and I'm telling her right here, even on live, we need to buy that Atomic Habits book because it, for me, I think that's I am a habit forming, and look, I'm an ex-drug. I've been sober for a while now, but came very close to death multiple times.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With heroin, and I'm so glad that I'm sober now. But I need good habits. Just like I thought I needed bad habits. Those habits I need every single day. And I know that this is my answer. I just need to put that work in.
Yeah, listen, and the reason why our habits are what they are is because they're serving us. You know, I tell my clients this all the time.
Ooh, yeah, dude.
Why the habits are what they are to us is because they are serving us in some kind of way. It's the reason why people do bad things. Things that are not helpful, things that are harmful, things that don't do us any good in the long run, they are serving us in some kind of way. The reason why something as trivial as doom scrolling on social media, while I was doing that for 5 hours out the day, is because it was serving something for me. So once I figured out what that thing was, I then was able to ask the question, how can I get the same reward that doom scrolling is giving me in a way that serves me better?
Man, I think our brains were made like exactly the same. I love the way that you're talking about that. I absolutely do the doom scrolling, and it's because I need that all the time, 24/7 engagement of learning or being into something I'm interested in, because I naturally want to learn or be productive, but I'm not using that energy in the right space.
Right. Exactly. And for that reason, that's what Atomic Habits starts to help you understand. You know, why are we doing what we're doing? That is the same thing with the why I love the Enneagram system so much. It's not so much about learning your number and learning, you know, your third. It's about unpacking your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why was I people pleasing? Because growing up, I learned that I can't talk about how I'm really feeling because if I might be abandoned. People might leave me. So I'm not going to talk about how I feel. Rather, I'm going to show up for people and give them, you know, my all, give them my energy, give them my effort, give them my time in hopes that I'll forge these everlasting friendships with people and they'll never betray me. Only for them to then betray me, not because they betrayed me, but because I'm interpreting their actions as a betrayal. And so now I'm severing friendships and relationships left and right because I can't believe you would ever do something like this to me. And all they did was just not answer a text, not answer a phone call, you know, something so simple, but I'm making it so big. Why did I need that attention so much? Because when I wanted the attention or needed the attention, the people that I wanted to show up for me would show up for me. So I had to learn how to show up for myself. And once I figured out how to do that, now I'm able to have these lasting friendships and relationships with people and not hold them to such a high standard to where if they make a mistake and it's an honest mistake, not a pattern, but an honest mistake, I'm not holding that against them because I've got enough love for myself. And so to that end, I learned how are these things serving me and how can I rewire them in such a way to where I'm better, I'm servicing myself better with the things that he's giving that I'm doing. And that's what writing became for me. It became the catharsis that I needed to where I'm no longer seeking outside of myself for validation, no longer seeking outside of myself for value. That's why I can, be hype about, my book, because for me, I'm celebrating me. Whether people buy it, 20,000 people buy it, 2 million people buy it, I'm happy that I wrote a book. And that's why I'm so happy about it. Like, dude, I wrote a book. Do you know how many people can say they wrote a book? I wrote a freaking book and I finished it.
Yeah, that's the thing. People start books, they don't finish them.
Right. And so for me, I got to hype myself up and be my own cheerleader. And the only way to do that, and one of the ways to do that is by recognizing that, I don't need other people to hype me up in order for me to be hyped. But I had to learn that through learning that that's how I was being served by other people. I needed them to hype me up. And I don't want to use them for that anymore, because there may be days where they can't, they don't, or they won't. And if that's the case, do I have enough within myself?
Oh, and that's huge. And I have to say I do a lot of overthinking, and some of that is overthinking because I like to think. And using that in the correct way for a productive life has always been a struggle for me. So I'm glad that you brought the human aspect. That is really what I always try to get out of people or bring myself. And I'm telling you, you've really, really knocked it out of the park with what I love to hear about people and relate as a human.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, guys, I wanted to make sure prior to me hopping on this, I thought I had all of the links down below, and I didn't. I'm adding those now. So Eddie, I want to make sure to go through some. You've got TikTok. I put your Amazon. What else socially do you do, or where else would you like me to direct people?
So I'm on all the social medias as Eddie Dee Writes. So Eddie Dee Writes. And so everywhere that I'm on social media, that's where you can find me. And so within those social media platforms, if you go to my bios, you'll find my Linktree, where my Linktree is.
Oh, you have a Linktree?
Yes, I have a Linktree, and it's the same thing. Linktree/Eddie Dee Writes. And so from there, that's where my store is. If you want to buy a book personally from me, I sell all the paperbacks, the hardbacks, and the ebooks there. If you so desire to buy one directly from me, I'm on Amazon. Find all the books there. The paperbacks and the hardbacks are available online at your favorite retailers through Ingram Spark in their distribution chain. And so if you want to get one from there, you can.
Did you say Linktree/Eddie Dee, right?
Yeah, it's so the way they do it, linktr.ee/Eddie Dee Writes. Mm-hmm.
Eddie Dee Writes. Oh, there's an S at the end of Writes. So Writes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, hold on. RITES.
WRITES. Eddie.
I don't know. For some reason I thought. Never mind. I had a brain fart. Sorry, guys. I don't usually do this live, but I wanted to make sure everybody had your information, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I have the link tree down below now, guys. Anywho, thank you so much, Zena. That's absolutely never ever needed and always appreciated. Thank you so much. In fact, the money that I get from like Patreon or this is either going towards a camera, which I don't know if I needed a better camera. I don't know if I would utilize it. I definitely would love to have a better camera, or potentially like softwares, stuff like that, and upgrading that, especially like going into narrating. So I just wanted you guys to know that. Thank you so much, Senna. Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree with you, Timothy. And I just started the book a couple days ago. I'm not very far yet. We have 4 kids, Eddie.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
5. We have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
We busy, dog.
Busy. Yes, sir.
So that was another point. I'm not necessarily an audiobook go-to guy, but because I have 4 kids, that is my go-to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I'd rather have the physical book.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
The lack of time has made me an audiobook reader. So I think that's another marketplace area where people kind of dig that.
No, 100%. I mean, people are going to the gym listening to audiobooks. They're in their cars doing audiobooks. They're washing dishes, doing audiobooks, dealing with the kids. So again, you're absolutely right. It's like that's kind of it's just the way forward. And so you're at an advantage. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're incorporating that. And so I also have been wondering one of the last questions that I wanted to ask you is how long. I'm just curious because you've really got your way of doing things down from when you started writing this book to publishing it.
Mm-hmm.
How long was that?
So the whole process from the first conception, best friend saying, "Hey, go write a book," to the book's release was 3 years. It was almost exactly 3 years.
Wow.
And in this last year is where I learned the business of self-publishing. My original intent was to go in doing traditional, but my Achilles heel was that I didn't know what my book was. I didn't know what genre it was in. I didn't know, what subtext it was. So I didn't know who to query to. I was querying to all different types of people, calling it a thriller, calling it a romance book, calling it all these different things because all those elements are there. So because I didn't know what my book was, I didn't know how to write the query letter to get it out there. And by the time I got rejected for the 11th time, I was like, let me go a different route because I still don't know what this is. And so I spent the last year between the final edits after my beta reader got a hold of it. It was like, no, you need to go add more emotion, dude. You're a therapist. Go add more emotion. I'm like, dude, I got to add more words. They already told me it's too long. Got to add more. Okay.
Don't listen to that, by the way. I talked to James Logans, who's an editor at Orbit. And he's like, no, I've never not bought a book because it was too long. I just tell him to shorten it.
Exactly. And that's what I learned here. I was like, no, everything in here is intentional. So I'm not going to worry about it. Let the story do what it does. People want it. They're going to buy it. And so after leaving the querier, the agents alone, I went the self-publisher out. And so a lot of this past year has been just doing a bunch of research. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do a cover? How do I put it on Amazon? How do I do all these things? So I've just been doing a lot of research. And so what you're seeing now is really like maybe 3 or 4 months of the culmination of all the research that I did. And so now that I have the system down, my hope and expectation is to be able to push these books out faster. Because now I don't need to do the research. I know where to go. I know how to do Amazon. I know how to do Ingram Spark. I know how to do, the book covers. I know how to do the edits. I know how to get it to the people and get it back to me and do all the things in a much faster pace. So now it's more streamlined and it's not a lot of questions to be asked.
Yeah.
So it helps me to be able to do this a whole lot faster because like we've been saying, I already have the stories down. As soon as I get them written, get them edited, get them expanded, all that jazz, it's now just putting all the other stuff together. And I'm so into this now, like, I'm almost like I don't want to go traditional just because the integrity of the story means so much to me. It would hurt my soul if a traditional publisher said, I need you to cut this out. Bruh, no, I can't do this. I got 9 books. What do you mean? I can't do this now. So but again, this first book has been a 3-year journey. I'm hoping that the timeline for the second book will be about 6 months faster, and then we'll see it kind of churn out to where it'll take me about 2 years from conception to finish for each book moving forward.
How long has this book been published?
So officially it's been a month. It was a month on Monday. It's been out a month on Monday. Mm-hmm.
Wow, man. So that's incredible. So I love that so much. And just knowing what I do now, after talking to so many authors, like 3 years where you jump in this, you're going like you jumped in the deep end, and you're right. Once you write the story, that's like a tenth of it. Like you've got publishers, you've got editors, you've got formatters, you've got proofreaders, you've got people that do typography. I mean, so what you did is not only evidence and proof that you have a lot of love and hope for your story and you believe in it. And yeah, so 100%. Anybody that's listening to this, all of these people over here in the comments are authors, 90% of them at least. Yeah, this is translating, and I can see that they're inspired by what you talked about, man. Yeah. So I'm super happy for you, and just glad to have you have talked about your experience, your journey, because it truly is unique and it's very inspiring, man.
No, absolutely. Listen, everybody who's listening to me, hear me when I say, take your time, because you want to get it right. Don't rush the process. The thing that I loved about my process from the time that we started writing to the end to last month is that I wanted it to be done. I didn't want to have to do anything else with this book before it finally got out to the masses. And so people were like, why don't you put it out now? Why don't you put it out now? It's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. Right. It's not ready yet. So I'm not going to put it out there. Yeah, no, I'm not ready yet. I know it's good, but I'm not ready yet. There's something else that I'm missing. I don't know how to do something. I need to know how to do this thing. I need to know how to do that thing. And I didn't rush it because, again, I got a whole job, got kids, got a wife, got responsibilities. So I'm not going to push myself out there and then hold myself accountable to something that I'm not ready for. So take your time. Take your time, because once you have your book finished and it's what you love, your readers are going to come.
Eddie, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, look at that comment.
Come on, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And people love it. And people love it. And so
that's amazing, man.
Take your time, because once your book is done, and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is it. You're going to love it that much more, and you're going to bring the energy necessary to get it to the people who want to read it, because you're going to be in love with it. Again, had I put it out 6 months prior, I'd be like, oh no, I don't, something don't feel right about this. And so now I'm scared. It's like, oh, buy my book? No. You don't need to put a question mark there. There needs to be an exclamation point at the end of that statement. And so it just so happened that I ran into this wonderful lady by the name of A.A. Lewis, who was doing something called the Black Reader Appreciation Event. And I had everything ready to go for a November 25th release. And she looked at all the stuff that I had done, everything from conception to finalization. And she looked at me and was like, you should put this out tomorrow. Like, you don't need to wait anymore. You have everything you need. It's like I needed that last set of eyeballs to look at my stuff. And she was like, dude, you have everything. Like the waiting that you're doing now is you being nervous. Let go of the nervousness and let this thing go. You got it. And so when I went back and, because I didn't do it right then, I went back and looked at everything, thought about what she said, talked to the missus and said, are we ready? And she was like, yeah, I've been telling you you're ready for months now. But I understand how you work. I ain't gonna push you, I'm encouraged, whatever. And so when we put it out there, she was absolutely right. She was absolutely right. It was ready, and I was ready, and everything worked out so well. But again, that was after I went and consulted one last time with myself. Am I ready? Because if I wasn't gonna push that green light.
Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. Take your time. It's your project. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because at the end of the day, you got to be happy with it. Like we've been saying, if you're not happy with it, you are not going to give it the energy it deserves in order for people to know that this is the project that they need to believe in. So take your time. And once it's ready, you will know, you'll push it forward, and it's going to be golden, and your people will find it.
Well, I have to say, thank you, man, for sharing that. So officially, Eddie, I want to thank you just for coming on the channel and writing your story and how you did that and your process and how you went about learning so much and just your story. That's what I'm after. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that. for the people that were here live to witness and probably take notes just like I did. So appreciate all of you as well. Y'all know that. And there's going to be a lot of people as well that will watch the replay. Let's see. I used to do all of this and not say the YouTube stuff. So like, share, subscribe, of course. It doesn't just help the channel. It helps.
Yes, support this dude.
It helps people
Awesome.
I have on. And that's what this community is about anyway, and y'all know that. And we just kind of push each other to do our best, and we'll all have a spot at the top. So Eddie, thank you so much. Thank you to the family for letting me borrow you. And I'll send you an email very, very soon. Hopefully we can plan something again in the near future. And
I love that. I would love that. Absolutely.
All of the links, guys, are, if they're not below yet, they will be ASAP right after this. So again, thank you guys. We'll talk to you very soon. And tomorrow I'm chatting with, I have to get back to you because I have a mush brain. But yes, I'll let you guys know. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night. See you next time.